Hi there, welcome back to Apatros Review. This episode, Cradle of Filth, directed by Alex Chandon in the year 2001, just over 20 years ago. Hi there, welcome back to Apatros Review, your guide to the wild world of science fiction, action, and horror cinema with me, your host, Melisika. If you want to spell my name, just look at the channel name. Now in this episode, we'll look at the film Cradle of Filth, which was a British horror portmanteau being the technical term for anthology film. And this came out direct-to-video in the UK on the 4th of July 2001, so about a little over a month away past the 20-year mark. Now, it was directed, written, and edited by Alex Chandon, and the music is filled with various assorted black metal songs, including plenty from the Cradle of Filth, whose frontman stars in this film, by the way. This is actually a pretty obscure film, and the disc you just saw is one of Umbrella Entertainment's first horror releases in Australia. Now, I should take a moment to talk about the disc, just one little thing. Due to some sort of oversight on the part of Umbrella, the Umbrella propaganda section, which is usually something on Umbrella's discs that essentially they put trailers for the other releases. And this disc is a single static screen featuring the front covers of 4 Umbrella releases, and there are no trailers featured on the disc. So you just see a screen with the pictures on it, but no trailers. Now, there is no possible way to access the trailers because I've done extensive testing on the disc, and the Umbrella trailers are not there. The film supplement is in the film, but not the trailers for some reason. So if anyone gets a disc and tries to find the trailers for those films, they're not there. Now, as for the film itself. Initially released on limited release through death metal band Cradle of Filth's website just over 20 years ago, the 2001 horror portmanteau film Cradle of Filth, starring the frontman of Cradle of Filth and being directed by Alex Chandon, who has made several of the band's videos, this film has had little recognition over the years, aside from being regarded as a minor cult fave amongst fans of Cradle of Filth and UK goth and black metal scene. A dementedly insane serial killer and kiddie fiddler, to use a safe term for this particular thing, hypnotist named Kemper. Has sent his rather demonically augmented son, played by Cradle of Filth's frontman Dani Filth, to carry out a series of killings against the people who put Kemper in the nut house. On Kemper's trail is Inspector Nielsen, whose role in arresting Kemper has put him in severe mental strain, to the point that Nielsen's developed a rather sick OCD habit of fondling the breasts of female murder victims, just to make sure they're dead, he claims. And his son is also in Kemper's firing line. As the man, Kemper's son, and basically played by Dani Filth, carries out the killings, resulting in the brutally gory deaths of several people, Nielsen's mental strain reaches almost unbearable levels. But once his son is killed after falling foul of an internet snuff video ring, the man is the ring's current customer and personally ordering a hit, and considering that the snuff website featured charges $1,550 for about 1.5k for simply painfully stabbing somebody in the arm with a knife, I wonder how much does it cost to actually kill someone on that site. Nielsen's mind snaps and he goes into the asylum with a service revolver in hand to give that bastard Kemper personal touching fuck him up revenge. But it seems that this is playing to Kemper's sick plan. Shot in the European aspect ratio 1:6:6, or for the Australian DVDs in Letterbox instead of being anamorphic. Of course 1:6:6 is a pretty tricky aspect ratio to handle on DVD, and on near the upper end of the digital video spectrum, although the film's budget means that the digital optical shots in the film are embarrassingly bad. Check out the shot of the digitally composited car driving through the busy intersection for a perfect example of that. Alex Chandon has some talent in setting up a decent array of camera setups that look pretty slick, but aside from some cool camera setups and enough gore and boobs to make this a choice pick for gorehounds and skin aficionados, Cradle of Filth is filled with bad acting, poor writing, a lot of bark is worse than actual bite horror posturing, not to mention some awful, for me at least, awful death metal songs from various bands of that genre, including Cradle of Filth. If you're a Cradle of Filth fan, you like the songs, but normal people will not like this sort of thing. And although Dani Filth makes an admittedly modestly effective impression as a demonic killer, so he's got some chance of acting as a horror boogeyman, and a plethora of some of the most unlikable people you've ever seen in a British horror portmanteau feature from this side of the millennium. The film has a total of 4 stories revolving around Kemper's victims. The first, featuring British horror actress Emily Booth, playing a goth groupie who gets the man in a sack and ends up being knocked up with a demonic spider baby, which only makes one appearance in the film then promptly gets written out, is overall a negligible piece that makes no real impact on the story, and its depiction of the man committing a sexual assault on Booth after turning into a monster is just plain nasty. There's no justifiable context to the scene, so the incident is distasteful at the least. The second story, about 2 lesbians who decide to rob an old man in his flat, only to discover the man's wrath. He seems unable to go down for the count, prompting the pair to bash the shit out of him with his furniture before he finally gets killed, and then returns as a zombie at the end of the segment to fatally punish the sole surviving sappist, after she gets greedy and kills the female lover just to keep the money for herself, is a lot better as a minimalist horror morality piece, and is for my money the best segment of the bunch, due to its robust premise. The third piece, about a man who lost his leg years before, and by the way, kudos to Chandler for actually casting this role of an actual amputee, and who, after realizing he can't get an erection due to his missing leg, decides to straight up murder a loser of a friend and cut off his leg so a dodgy doctor can attach it to a stump. Even though there is the issue of tissue rejection that the script never seems to bring up, but then again it doesn't matter in the story's scope, only to find the new leg possessed by the ghost of the former owner, who decides to punish the new owner by taking the opportunity when the man is driving his car with his wife to floor the gas pedal and never letting go, resulting in that bad digital shot of the car running the lights. This segment is the worst of the bunch, even worse than the Emily Booth one, due to having no real payoff other than the new owner stabbing himself to death after futilely trying to cut off his new leg with a knife. The fourth and final segment is a particularly dark story about the detective protagonist's son, himself an IT lackey, getting involved with an interactive snuff video website, the one that charges 1.5k for a simple non-fatal snuff foreplay knife cut in the arm, and his obsession with the site, which keeps changing its address, and his efforts to track it down, ending up costing him his girlfriend, his job, and his house, making him homeless and leading him to find the location of the site to fatal consequences. Basically finds himself in the same small room that the site conducts his kills, and the new client is the man himself. This is the second best of the segments, and is also the darkest of the bunch, more darker than the other ones. Much like the Lesbian Robbers, this one showcases at its heart a simple morality story, although the story's focus on the son of the hero detective adds a particularly nasty effect on his motivations and character arc. As good as those 2 segments are, the climax is by far the best piece of the film, with Nielsen taking matters in his own hands and finally confronting Kemper in his cell as the man arrives, disguised as one of the asylum's security staff, and resulting in an extremely bloody conclusion with an ambiguous stinger of an ending. Cradle of Fear is, at the end of the day, a rather uneven effort, even for all the stories written by the director, which is to be expected in just about any horror portmanteau or indeed any portmanteau of any genre. But here at least the film tries to be a black metal version of Creepshow, without the sophistication of the George Romero Stephen King classic, or that film's perfect grasp of EC Comics' dark humor, although parts of Cradle of Fear are pretty somewhat funny in an unintentional manner, and horror morality. That being said, it is somewhat watchable to an extent, but not enough to be considered even on the level of passable, so my verdict is a C, 4 out of 10, just as plain average. But as for the gore, ooh, if you're a gorehound, this film delivers the goods and then some. The practical gore flies by with an enthusiasm that at least gives gorehounds plenty of brew to keep them happy. Heads blown off, limbs hacked off, stabbings, shootings, disembowelments, decapitations, and bloody beatings to the tune of black metal music. If you're into gore, this is awesome despite the rest of the film being rather mediocre. As for nudity, Emily Booth is the first to get her boobs out, and her butt, and there's also boobage from likes of Rebecca Eden, Emma Rice, and Eileen Daly. But Booth features more skin than the rest. Now as for the DVD. The DVD was released in Australia from Umbrella Entertainment, and this is actually one of the earliest horror releases. The disc is a single layer, for the cover claims dual layer, but one look at the disc data side dispels that. And the 2-hour long film has been obviously compressed to fit the disc with one single layer, with the extras, a BTS, and 2 trailers. Although I've mentioned at the start of the review that the typical Umbrella propaganda section is missing here, aside from a static screen due to an oversight by Umbrella's text. Looking like an EP job, the film has some artifacting on display. Resolution is not this Spring's strong suit, but at least when upscaled on a HD screen, this looks decent enough. And the film's somewhat semi-flat digital video photography does show some problems with shadow detail, and there's one video dropout in that section of the screen at precisely 89 minutes 17 seconds, right at the moment Nielsen's son headbutts his boss, in fact next to the boss's head. The supplement is minimally comprehensive, but okay enough for this cheap film. All DVD releases worldwide of Cradle of Fear are the unrated director's cut, although it does have a rating in Britain, and here in Australia as well, as you can see the R18, which is the Australian version of the American NC-17. And considering the director was also the editor, this at least fits the bill. So Cradle of Fear gets a C, 4 out of 10. It's average at best. But if you're a gorehound, this definitely delivers the goods. So, yeah, this lockdown is pretty much going on for a while now. We're more than 2 months in. Oh, I hope you guys are staying safe. Now, I do not do requests, but if you have any questions about DVDs that you think I can answer, just hit me up in the comment section. I'll answer. Also, if you have any types of film you think I can check out, just hit me up in the comment section. I'll tell you if there's anything of it coming up. Hope you guys are staying safe. Take it easy, relax, and see you around.